What if everything you were praised for your whole life was quietly destroying you? Stay with me, because what happens inside the psychology of someone who has spent decades giving without limit will completely reframe everything you think you know about generosity, love, and power. Here's what nobody tells the givers, the helpers, the ones who answer the phone at midnight, who show up without being asked, who feel other people's pain like it lives inside their own chest. Nobody tells them that there is a point of no return, a moment when the soul, after years of being poured out like water, decides it is finally done being emptied. And when that moment comes, nothing on earth can stop it. Carl Jung understood this better than almost anyone. He said that what we do not transform, we transmit. And for empaths who have spent a lifetime absorbing the pain of others, suppressing their own needs, and mistaking self-erasure for virtue, that transmission eventually becomes a reckoning. Not violent, not dramatic, but absolute. The question is never if the reckoning comes. The question is whether you're ready to receive it when it does. But here's where it gets profound, and why most people completely misread what's happening when an empath finally changes. Jung identified a phenomenon he called enantiodromia, the moment when something pushed to its extreme begins to transform into its opposite. Water frozen long enough becomes something that can break stone. And the empath, who has been endlessly patient, endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, when pushed past a certain threshold, doesn't break. They solidify. They become something they were never allowed to be before. Immovable. The people around them often mistake this for coldness, for bitterness, for damage. But what they're actually witnessing is something the ancient traditions and depth psychology both recognized as sacred. They are watching someone claim, for the very first time, the territory of their own soul. And here's what will completely change how you see this transformation. The empath didn't become a giver by accident. Jung discovered that our psychological patterns are formed in the earliest architecture of our lives. For most empaths, giving wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. Love in the households where many of them grew up was conditional. It was earned through availability, through selflessness, through the constant and exhausting work of managing other people's emotional states. They learned at a cellular level that their needs were secondary, that their feelings were burdens, that the safest version of themselves was the one who asked for nothing and offered everything. Jung called this the persona, the mask we construct to make ourselves acceptable to the world. For empaths, the mask was generosity, and they wore it so long, so completely, that they forgot it was a mask at all. But here's the devastating and liberating truth. A mask worn long enough starts to suffocate the face beneath it. The awakening doesn't announce itself with thunder. It begins as a whisper, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, a resentment that feels shameful because you've always been the good one, a moment when someone asks for more and something inside you, quiet and ancient and completely done, simply says no. Not out loud, not yet, but somewhere beneath the surface, the tectonic plates of the self have begun to shift. Jung understood that this is not regression. This is not selfishness dressed in spiritual language. This is the individuation process beginning its most critical phase. The empath is not losing themselves. They are finally, after a lifetime of exile, beginning to return to themselves. And what returns is not the wounded child who learned to give to be loved. What returns is something far older, far stronger, and completely unwilling to negotiate. Here's what happens in the psyche during this reclamation, and why it is simultaneously the most frightening and the most magnificent thing an empath will ever experience. Jung spoke of the shadow, the repository of everything we have suppressed, denied, or deemed unacceptable about ourselves. For empaths, the shadow is full. It contains every no they swallowed, every need they dismissed, every boundary they sacrificed on the altar of keeping the peace, every moment they chose someone else's comfort over their own truth. And when the shadow finally integrates, when those buried parts are finally allowed to surface, the empath doesn't become cruel. They don't become cold. They become complete. They discover, often for the first time, that they are allowed to take up space, that their needs are not impositions, that saying no is not an act of violence against someone else, it is an act of fidelity to themselves. This is not the end of their empathy. It is its evolution. But here's the part that most people never see. Because by the time it happens, the empath has usually already quietly stepped back from the relationships and dynamics that were draining them. The transformed empath becomes extraordinarily selective, not cynical, not closed, selective. They begin to measure reciprocity not with suspicion but with clarity. They notice who reaches out only in crisis, who takes without asking, who confuses availability with devotion. And they begin, slowly and without apology, to redirect their extraordinary capacity for care toward people and places where it is genuinely met. Jung called this conscious relationship, the deliberate choice to engage only where there is authentic exchange. The empath who once gave to everyone because they couldn't bear the guilt of withholding now gives to the worthy few with a depth and quality of presence that is absolutely transformative. They haven't stopped loving. They have learned to love with direction. And now here is the truth that will reframe everything. The empath who takes their power back is not betraying the people they once gave everything to. They are finally, after years of loving others into wholeness, beginning the sacred and overdue work of loving themselves. Jung said that the most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? For empaths, the myth was the selfless one, the endlessly available one, the one whose worth was measured entirely by what they could offer. And myths, no matter how long we live inside them, eventually ask to be outgrown. The new myth the awakened empath inhabits is quieter, less performing, less spectacular to those watching from the outside. But internally, it is vast. It is the myth of the person who finally came home to themselves. They stop explaining their boundaries because boundaries no longer require explanation. They stop apologizing for their needs because needs are no longer shameful. They stop rescuing people from consequences because they understand, with hard-earned wisdom, that the rescue often prevents the growth. They become, in Jung's precise language, individuated, whole within themselves, no longer requiring external validation to confirm what they already know at the deepest level of their being. And here is the final and most important thing. The power an empath reclaims is not power over others. It is power with themselves. It is the quiet, unshakable authority of someone who has walked through the fire of their own dissolution and emerged not harder, but truer. Carl Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. For empaths, that becoming often requires something most people will never understand. The courage to stop being everything to everyone, the audacity to choose themselves, the revolutionary act of deciding that their light is not a resource to be extracted, but a gift to be offered only where it is genuinely received. After a lifetime of giving, the empath does not become less. They become more discerning, more sovereign, more luminous. And that, according to everything Jung devoted his life to understanding, is not the end of their compassion. It is its most powerful beginning.